Thurston County Board of County Commissioners, public hearing regarding renewal of interim emergency housing ordinance. It is 3:10 p.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia, County Manager Ramiro Chavez, and Clerk of the Board Amy Davis. We also have some folks joining us through our Zoom. Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. I see Maya Teeple and Leah Davis from Community Planning and Economic Development. And looks like we have a member of the public as well, Jason Gano. The purpose of this public hearing is to accept and consider public comment on the proposed renewal of Ordinance 15792, which was passed on June 25th, 2019. It was renewed on June 9th, 2020 under Ordinance 15948, then amended and renewed on December 9th, 2020 under Ordinance 15948. There are no proposed amendments to the last interim ordinance. This is a hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined in person by Zoom, emailed in comment, or mailed in comment. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online, select announcements of public hearings on the left-hand side. The information to join this public hearing remotely has been posted there. If you do not wish to testify but would like to listen and follow along, please watch the live stream through the Thurston County YouTube channel to help us manage attendance. Leah Davis, an associate planner with Community Planning and Economic Development, will provide information on this topic. Assuming those on Zoom wish to testify, we'll read your name aloud. We will read then names on the sign-up sheet. You'll have 4 minutes to testify. Time may not be given to another person. When you are called on, please state your name and area of the county in which you reside for the record. Public hearing is now open, and Leah will present background information on the proposed amendment, including a summation of any written comments submitted or any additional information requested by the board. Go ahead, Leah.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Leah Davis, Associate Planner, Community Planning. So this public hearing is to accept and consider public testimony on a proposed renewal of the Interim Emergency Housing Ordinance. The renewal will apply to the rural county and the urban growth areas of Lacey, Tumwater, and Olympia. To date, there have been no homeless encampments approved under this ordinance. But first, a brief background of the ordinance. Interim Emergency Housing Ordinance number 15792 was first adopted by the board on June 25th, 2019, after the Board of Health declared homelessness a countywide public health crisis. June 9th, 2020, the board renewed the interim ordinance under Ordinance 15902, and again on December 9th, 2020, with the renewal of Ordinance 15948. This ordinance will expire June 9th, 2021, unless the board takes action to renew it. Under the Growth Management Act, renewal of interim ordinances is effective for 6 months, meaning if the interim ordinance is renewed by the board, it will expire December 9th, 2021, unless it is renewed again. The options before the board today are to renew the ordinance or let it expire. An action is included if the board wishes to renew the ordinance after this public hearing. If the board wishes to renew the ordinance, but not today, the last opportunity will be the board meeting on June 8th, since there is no board meeting on June 1st. Some details about the ordinance. As previously adopted, the interim ordinance does the following. In order to facilitate effective and timely service in response to the public health crisis, it offers waivers to some code requirements for homeless encampments. Under the interim ordinance, and only with an emergency resolution by the board, the director of CPED may waive certain requirements for homeless encampments. A waiver by the director is allowed for a 6-month period, but can be extended beyond 6 months if the board holds a public hearing and finds that a public health crisis in the form of homelessness continues to exist. Following is a list of requirements that can be waived at the request of a sponsoring agency during permit review. Limitations on size, maximum number of residents, parking standards, distance from a bus stop, right-of-way limitations, visual separation from other uses, keeping a log of residence, requiring verifiable ID, having a security tent, allowing visitors, maintaining a numbering system, and requiring liability insurance. Also, the prohibition of the use of heating and cooking appliances within RVs can be waived. These standards that are allowed to be waived are generally not related to public health and safety. The director does not have the option to waive the following regulations: the requirement for sanitary portable toilets, standards requiring structures to conform to building codes, fire safety requirements, requirement of the host to provide a code of conduct, requirement of the encampment residents to sign an agreement to abide by the code of conduct, requirement of the sponsoring agency to self-police and self-manage, and the director cannot waive the prohibition of alcohol, drugs, fighting, abuse, littering, or disruption of neighbors. In other words, standards that may directly affect public health and safety. The renewal of the ordinance does not do the following. It does not outright eliminate any requirements. It merely offers the director the option to waive specific requirements at the request of a sponsoring agency. And it does not establish a camp in the rural county or urban growth areas. On May 3rd, the community planning webpage was updated with this public hearing information. Legal notice of this hearing was published in the Olympian on May 3rd, 2021, and a press release was issued May 17th for this public hearing. As of 2 o'clock today, there have been 2 comments submitted to staff, both in opposition with no reasons given. And that concludes my remarks.
Questions for Leah from the board? Commissioner Hill?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we will move to the public testimony, and I've got one person on the Zoom potentially, Jason Gano.
Yeah. Do you want to go with the Zoom?
That's what it says in the script, so that's what I'm going to stick with.
Okay.
I already said it.
Good afternoon. Mr. Jason Gano, if you'd like to provide public testimony this afternoon, please introduce yourself, where you reside in the county. You have 4 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Jason Gano, and thank you for giving me the time to speak. My comments were submitted beforehand through Brett Perez, so those should be in front of you.
Okay.
Do we have those comments, I would ask?
Leah, can you elaborate on those comments?
I did not receive any comments from Mr. Burris.
Without going into detail, is there any chance we could ask if he's pro or con?
Will you be able to provide a verbal testimony on the written comments, sir?
I would just ask that we extend the ordinance, we continue to extend the ordinance as it continues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Then that will exhaust Zoom, and I've only got one sign up. It's Mr. Pettit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I live out on Rich Road. And while I live out in Rich Road, which is just south of Olympia in the Tumwater area, if I was a group that wanted to sponsor somebody, my property wouldn't qualify anyway. And this is part of the reason why, while I don't object to you renewing an ordinance, but an ordinance that basically has been completely ineffective because of the extreme level of guidelines that are required in order to make any sense of it. I hate to say it, but only government can afford to actually create a homeless encampment under these type of standards. And so it's just kind of like, well, it's nice to say we have one, but effectively it doesn't really amount to having one if you can't use it. So I would encourage that the commissioners take a good look. Take a very good look at this ordinance and see what you can do about improving it. People in the rural county might think they're in danger, but the vast majority of the rural, I mean like 99% of the rural county outside of the urban growth area is virtually exempt from any possibility of being affected by this ordinance. This is a ordinance that's designed, and there's some good thoughts. It needs to be near bus service, or somebody has to provide transportation. And I can tell you, being a babysitter to some people that don't always live a choice of quality life that we may individually live can be taunting. And you have a huge amount of responsibility and liability involved with any element of having a homeless encampment. So I would encourage a rework of the ordinance. Perhaps you can pass it and you can still go to work on reworking the ordinance, okay? But it has already proven over a 2-year time frame to be completely ineffective as what it's written right now. And so if something's ineffective, either you need to find a new pathway for it, or you need to consider some other elements. And candidly, I'm going to throw just another brief mix in here. You know, I've seen certain spots which would be perfect examples of great possibility for homeless encampments, but we don't have the ability to make those without huge costs. If you go down the Squally Hill, you look off down by the freeway, you see about, 50 campers all in a circle around a general facility. It works, and it's a low cost. And that might be a better provision to provide for some of this issues we have about the motor homes and trailers that need to be taken care of. Create a commercial site that somebody can make it a business venture that can work with people. Anyway, with all the undue things and having to check people's ID and their conviction records and every other element about everyone in camp, that's why a lot of the people that live in some of the homeless places don't go into other facilities. They don't want that accountability. So good luck with this one. Like I say, you can pass it. It will be ineffective, but rework it, and perhaps you can find a better path to make something work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got. Does anybody else want to give testimony? Seeing nobody? Is there, I guess at this point, the board can have discussion if needed prior to closing the public hearing. Any comments or discussion?
No, sir.
Yes, sir, I do have some concerns. As the audience might know, I come from a philosophy of tough love. And I really feel that the city of Olympia does enable deviant behavior. They are the reason that we've got so many of these folks in our community now. I am in favor of helping our local people that have fallen on hard times, but I'm not in favor of helping people from Kansas City or elsewhere. And there is currently no way to positively identify offenders in this group. We do not have mandatory treatment for drug or mental issues, and I don't think we're ever going to get ahead of this until we hold people accountable and require some of this activity. And I don't feel it is proper to move these camps, although there have not been any created under this process yet, but I don't think they need to be moved into the unincorporated area of Thurston County. I think they need to be where there is going to be service for these individuals and transportation for these individuals. So because of that, I would ask when we move this forward, if it does get moved forward, that my seatmate would make the motion, please. Okay, that's it for me, sir.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, sir, I would move to close this public hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye. Motion carries. Close the public hearing. Would the board like to take an action?
Yeah, I would do a motion. I would move to approve an ordinance extending Ordinance 15948 to establish interim regulations from Ordinance 15972 related to emergency housing for homeless encampments in unincorporated rural and urban growth areas of Thurston County for the term of June 9th, 2021 to December 9th, 2021.
I second. So it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion of this motion?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. I guess I would say that this is a tool in our toolbox. I think I agree with Mr. Pettit in saying that it hasn't been a very effective tool. It's been frustrating for me, and we have a staff working on a permanent version of this where maybe we can address some of the things that he brings out. I think it could be something that we would use. I agree with what Commissioner Edwards said, but the Carpenter Martin site had drug treatment next door and transit. So there are places outside the municipality of Olympia where it could be, that turned out not to be, but it could be appropriate to cite. I will say that since the last time we have renewed this, I have been asked about this in 3 different community forums in which I participated, including the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations, a social service group forum. It is an area of high community interest. So we would obviously look very carefully before we would cite something, but basically all that pile of regulations that Mr. Pettit referred to, this ordinance kind of cuts them in half. There's still another half that's a problem potentially or necessary. We debated that at great length in 2019 before we enacted this, but I do think it makes something possible, at least at the governmental level, which we may need in the future. We just don't know, but we can't even consider it if we don't take this action. So with that, I will call for the vote on this motion.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye. The motion carries. Interim ordinance renewed on a 2-to-1 vote. And we're adjourned.